The first thing everyone noticed about the old man in room 317 was his silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, stubborn silence of someone who had decided long ago that words were no longer worth the effort. His name was Frank Miller, an American Vietnam War veteran in his late 70s. Admitted to a long-term care hospital in California after a severe stroke left half his body weak and his speech slurred. Doctors described him as uncooperative. Nurses whispered that he was difficult. Orderlies said he was mean. Frank refused help, refused therapy, refused conversation. He turned his face to the wall when anyone entered, stared at the ceiling when they tried to feed him, and clenched his jaw so tightly that even painkillers were hard to administer. But what frustrated the staff the most was this: he rejected almost everyone. White nurses, black nurses, Latino nurses, he pushed their hands away, slapped trays off tables, growled whenever someone tried to move him. The hospital rotated staff through his room, hoping someone would break through. No one did. Until Lena. Lena was a Filipino nurse in her early 30s, newly transferred from another wing. She was petite, soft-spoken, and had the calm presence of someone who had learned patience not from textbooks, but from life itself. She had worked night shifts for years, cared for patients who screamed, cried, or forgot who they were entirely. Nothing about Frank's reputation scared her. On her first morning assigned to room 317, the charge nurse warned her quietly, "He's rough. Don't take it personally." Lena nodded. "Okay." She pushed open the door gently. Frank didn't turn. His eyes stayed fixed on the pale morning light creeping through the blinds. Lena didn't speak right away. She set down her tray, checked the monitors silently, adjusted the curtains so the sun wasn't directly in his eyes. Then, softly, she said, "Good morning, sir." "I'm Lena. I'll be your nurse today." No response. She didn't repeat herself, didn't force conversation. She simply began her work. When she reached for his arm to check his four, Frank suddenly yanked it back and snarled, "Don't touch me." The words came out rough, broken, but full of anger. Lena froze for half a second. Then she said something unexpected. "Okay, just that. No argument. No scolding. No sigh." She stepped back, waited, then calmly said, "I'll be right here if you change your mind." Frank frowned. That wasn't the reaction he was used to. Minutes passed. Lena stayed in the room, quietly organizing supplies, humming under her breath. It wasn't a song Frank recognized, but it was steady, gentle, familiar in a way he couldn't explain. Eventually, he spoke again, voice low. "What? Accent?" Lena looked up, surprised but smiling. "Filipino, sir." "I'm from the Philippines." Frank's jaw tightened. For a moment, Lena thought she had made a mistake, but then his eyes shifted. Not angry this time. Searching. "The Philippines?" he muttered. "You people still send nurses everywhere." She chuckled lightly. "Yes, sir. We like taking care of people." Something flickered across his face. She finished her rounds without further resistance. When she left the room, the charge nurse raised an eyebrow. "How'd it go?" "He told me not to touch him," Lena said honestly, "but he didn't throw anything." The nurse laughed. "That's progress." The next day, Frank refused everyone again. Except Lena. When another nurse tried to enter his room, he croaked, "No." The Filipino one. The staff exchanged looks. Lena was called in. This time, when she entered, Frank didn't turn away. "You," he said. "You can stay," she smiled. "Thank you, sir." As days passed, an unspoken routine formed. Lena never rushed him, never raised her voice. She asked permission before every movement, even when hospital protocol didn't require it. "Is it okay if I adjust your pillow?" "May I check your blood pressure now?" Frank noticed. One afternoon while she helped him sit up, his breathing suddenly became shallow. Panic crept into his eyes, the kind that comes from old memories, not current pain. Lena noticed instantly. She placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Sir, you're safe. You're here. Breathe with me." Her voice was firm but kind. Inhale. Exhale. Frank's breathing slowly steadied. After a long silence, he whispered, "You don't talk like the others." Lena tilted her head. "How do they talk?" "Like they're in charge," he said. "Like I'm a problem." She thought for a moment. "In my culture, elders are not problems. They are teachers. Even when they are quiet." Frank swallowed hard. That night, after Lena left, Frank didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, his mind drifting backward decades back. Vietnam, humidity, mud, the smell of smoke and blood. He remembered a field hospital hastily set up after an ambush. He remembered being dragged in with shrapnel in his leg, screaming, sure he was going to die. And he remembered her, a young Filipino nurse, barely older than 20, hands shaking but steady, speaking softly in a language he didn't understand. She cleaned his wounds while bombs echoed in the distance. She wiped sweat from his face. When he cried out in pain, she didn't flinch. She just said in broken English, "You live, I promise." He did live, but he never saw her again. Over the years, Frank buried that memory under anger, guilt, and loss. He lost friends. He lost faith. He lost the ability to trust anyone who hadn't been there. Until now. The next morning, when Lena entered, Frank spoke before she could. "Were there Filipino nurses in Vietnam?" Lena paused. "Yes, sir. Many. Some volunteered. Some were assigned." He nodded slowly. "One saved my life." Lena's eyes softened. "Then I'm very grateful she was there." His voice trembled. "She talked like you." Silence filled the room. From that day on, Frank allowed Lena to do everything: feed him, bathe him, help with therapy. He still rejected others. Not out of hatred, but out of choice. "She understands." He would say, "She listens." Other staff members were baffled. One doctor joked, "You must be working magic." Lena shook her head. "No, just respect." As weeks passed, Frank began talking more. Not much, but enough. He talked about the war, about friends who never came home, about the shame he carried for surviving when others didn't. Lena never interrupted, never judged. Sometimes she cried quietly after her shift. One afternoon, Frank suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Promise me something," he said. "Yes, if I go..." "You be here." Lena hesitated, then nodded. "I'll be here, sir." On his final night, Frank's breathing grew shallow again. Machines beeped softly. The room was dim, peaceful. Lena sat beside him, holding his hand. He squeezed weakly. "You know why I trusted you?" She shook her head. "Because in the war, Filipinos didn't see me as a soldier, just a human who was hurt." A tear slid down Lena's cheek. "Thank you," he whispered, "for coming back." He passed quietly minutes later. At his memorial, Frank's daughter approached Lena, holding an old photograph. "This was taken in Vietnam," she said. He kept it his whole life. The photo showed a young soldier on a stretcher, and a Filipino nurse holding his hand. Lena covered her mouth. "He told us," his daughter continued, "that he only felt safe at the end because of you." Lena bowed her head. For Frank, the war never really ended. But in his final days, it softened because a Filipino nurse reminded him what care, dignity, and humanity felt like. And that was enough.